A cheetah pursues an unsuspecting gazelle. Being the desired prey to a large cat is not a rare occurrence in the animal world for a gazelle in the savanna grasslands of South Asia and Africa. The Thompson's gazelle population has been in a steady decline since 1978, dropping by 60% in only 35 years. But why? Unlike the Thompson's gazelle, the population of humans has been on a steep and steady incline. Following the Industrial Revolution, the world population increased by multitudes, with no hint of slowing. With this population growth rate, our world will not be able to sustain us. We need to act quickly to preserve ourselves and our world. Over the course of this video, we will look at the causes, effects, and solutions to overpopulation as we see it in 2014. There are some major differences in why the gazelle population and the human population are so different. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, we humans have been finding endless ways to defy nature by finding cures to the horrible diseases that kept our population so steady for so long. This in turn means that humans are living longer and the worldwide infant mortality rate is diminishing. This combination results in a birth-to-death ratio that is unsustainable. This graph of a human population over time shows clearly the dramatic population jump that we've had over the past 500 years up until 2011. Modern advances in medicine are one of the major contributors to our growing population. Lower infant mortality rates combined with an ever-growing life expectancy mean that our population is growing faster than ever, with no hint of slowing. The current worldwide population growth rate is 1.1%, meaning for every 4 babies that are born each second, only 2 people die. This may not seem like a lot. This number means that the worldwide population is expected to double in the next 50 years if this rate continues to stay the same. This will become a massive problem in the very near future. People say that the world is constantly changing at a very rapid speed, but it's not the world that is changing, it's us. However, we haven't been changing this fast for forever. This time-lapse map shows human population over hundreds of years. You can see the notable jump from 1950 to 2000. The power of population is so superior to the power of the earth to produce subsistence for man that premature death must in some shape or other visit the human race. These words were written in the late 18th century by philosopher Thomas Malthus in his famous essay, An Essay on the Principle of Population. In the essay, he predicted that the world would become overpopulated and use all the world's resources, resulting in a mass famine, ending the human race. One of the most commonly talked about issues as a result of overpopulation is the issue of food production. Currently, the world has the capacity to feed close to 10 billion people, but with only 7 billion, 1 billion people are currently hungry. Although many people are fighting endlessly to help those in need, the biggest problem is the division of food. The average American consumes as much food, water, and supplies as 32 Kenyans. If this number becomes lower and the balance of food consumption becomes more equal, we will have no problems feeding a population in the future, given that technology continues to improve. Another seemingly obvious issue is how we are going to physically fit more people on Earth. As it turns out, humans don't need as much space as you might think. all 7 billion people of the world can fit, if placed shoulder to shoulder, inside the city of Los Angeles. It's the land needed for agriculture and the space needed for humans to live and work comfortably that causes us to spread out. If the population continues to grow, there are many problems that we will encounter. The world will soon face extreme cases of desertification, hunger, and species depletion, along with accelerated global warming. Desertification is a type of land degradation in which a relatively dry land region becomes increasingly arid, losing its bodies of water as well as vegetation and wildlife. This clip shows a time-lapse of the drying of the Aral Sea in Kazakhstan. This process renders the land unusable for agriculture, resulting in famines. We have all heard of the possible effects of global warming, which include rising sea levels, bigger and more frequent storms, and more extreme temperatures. Overpopulation will increase this epidemic by adding to the CO2 emissions in our atmosphere. In 2012, on average, each person contributed 4.6 tons of CO2 to the growing amount of pollution we have created. If this continues, having more people will make it harder and harder to reduce these emissions. Not only do these have long-lasting effects on the human species, but the rest of the plants and animals on Earth as well. All kinds of species are losing their homes, their food, and their water. These losses add with humans hunting them, that more and more species are becoming endangered and pushed to the point of extinction. If humans don't make radical changes in a very short amount of time, all the possible consequences will soon become a reality. We need a solution to this evident problem. There is no single solution to overpopulation, but there are many possible ways that can work together to slow it down. 210 million pregnancies occur around the world each year. 38% of these are unplanned pregnancies. Humans are already trying to control birth rates. The fastest and most practical one is to provide people with easy access to sexual education and reliable methods of birth control. There are also more radical ways of controlling birth rates, such as the one-child policies that were introduced in China in 1979. Ever since it was introduced, it was estimated that it had averted over 200 million births in China. If this policy was implemented in other large countries, such as India and the United States, then it would reduce the population growth by millions of people each year. This policy, however, would be limiting a person's ability to have children, therefore limiting their human rights. Because of this, countries with major beliefs for human rights, such as the United States, will most likely not adopt this policy. It is also possible to reduce the population from the other end of the spectrum, if we can follow Quebec's recent adoption of a right to die legislation. This entails that if someone is terminally ill, or with a negatively life-altering condition, then they are allowed to receive medical aid to die in the form of euthanasia. Not only will this law help the population even out, but it will also allow people to die when they are ready to. Currently, not many countries have adopted this law. However, some forms of voluntary euthanasia are legal in Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and the American states of Oregon and Washington. In a privately conducted survey, results showed that the majority of people would not like to live past the age of 100. However, with the continuing advances in medicine, it is becoming more and more realistic to assume that it would be normal for people to be living to the age of 120 and beyond. 80% of the same people surveyed said that they would prefer a sudden death compared to a long drawn-out death. Why not give people what they want, rather than spending precious resources on people who aren't wanting to live? Another thing that people not only want, but need, are things like food, water, and shelter. If modern technology continues to advance the way it has been for the past 200 years, then we will find new ways to feed, water, and house an ever-growing population. This still doesn't mean that we shouldn't be concerned for our planet and ourselves. You personally can help by using reliable methods of contraception and minimizing your consumption of food and water on a daily basis. habits of humans pursue an unsuspecting human race. If the threat is not noticed and averted in time, the human race could be in grave danger.